There will come a day when the weight of the world sits heavy on your chest, when the air you breathe feels borrowed, and when silence screams louder than words. In that moment, you will face a choice: to shatter beneath the pain or to stand, trembling but unbroken, above it. Pain is not a stranger. It visits every soul, sometimes unannounced, sometimes expected. And when it arrives, it has the power to make us collapse or to make us discover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. The storms of life do not ask for permission, but they demand one thing: how will you respond? Will you allow chaos to claim your calm? Will you let suffering define you? Or will you rise higher than the hurt, higher than the doubt, higher than the fear? If you stay with me until the very end, I promise you will not only hear words, you will feel a power awakening within you, a reminder of your own unshakable strength. There is a certain kind of power the world often overlooks. People search for it in wealth, in status, in muscles, in armies, in loud voices that command attention. But the truest, most unshakable power is often the quietest. It does not need to shout, it does not need to threaten, it does not need to rush. That power is calm. Calm is not passive. Calm is not the absence of struggle or the denial of reality. Calm is the decision to hold your center when everything around you is designed to pull you apart. Think about the storms you have endured, the moments when anger begged you to react, when fear tried to tighten its grip on your chest, when doubt whispered that you were not strong enough to go on. In those moments, your greatest weapon was not a quick tongue or a clenched fist. It was your ability to breathe, to stay rooted, to let the storm rage without letting it steal your balance. Calm is not weakness. Calm is a shield, invisible but indestructible, that guards the mind and protects the heart. When you walk through life with calm, people may underestimate you. They may mistake your silence for surrender. They may believe that your patience is hesitation or that your refusal to argue is defeat. But the truth is, calm is strength restrained. It is knowing you could respond with fire, yet choosing water. It is knowing you could escalate the chaos, yet deciding instead to become the anchor that steadies the ship. This kind of calm is not natural, it is cultivated. It is practiced in the smallest moments so that when the biggest storms come, you are already prepared. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain beats down, and branches bend under the weight of the storm. Yet the tree stands, not because the storm is gentle, but because its roots are deep. Calm works the same way. It is not the absence of pressure, but the strength of your roots that keeps you upright. People who live in calmness are not people who have never been broken. They are people who have been broken and rebuilt themselves with patience, wisdom, and inner peace. Calm gives you clarity. When emotions run high, decisions are rushed. When anger takes over, words spill that cannot be taken back. But when calm enters, perspective shifts. You begin to see not just the moment in front of you, but the larger picture. You begin to notice solutions where before you only saw problems. Calm allows you to respond instead of react, to guide instead of be driven, to move with intention instead of impulse. This is why calm is more than peace, it is power. Think of the times you've lost your calm, the arguments where anger carried you too far, the moments of fear where you made choices you regretted, the hours of worry where you wasted your strength on battles that never even arrived. Compare those moments with the times you stayed calm, when you listened instead of shouted, when you waited instead of rushed, when you chose to breathe instead of panic. Which of those versions of you had more control? Which of those versions held more strength? Calm does not rob you of power. It returns power to you. But calm must be trained like a muscle. You cannot expect to summon it in great trials if you do not practice it in the small frustrations of daily life. Calm is built when you resist the urge to argue over trivial matters, when you pause before answering a difficult question, when you allow yourself to breathe deeply instead of rushing through stress. These moments prepare you. They teach your mind to slow down, your heart to steady, your spirit to trust. By the time greater storms arrive, you are no longer shaken the way you once were. Calm also creates influence. A calm leader inspires trust in followers. A calm parent gives stability to a child. A calm friend brings peace into chaos. People are naturally drawn to those who remain steady when others crumble. It is not the loudest person in the room who commands respect. It is often the calmest, because calm is rare and what is rare is valuable. In a world addicted to noise and haste, calm becomes a beacon of strength, a living example that not everything must be rushed, not everything must be fought, not everything must be loud to be powerful. And do not mistake calm for indifference. Calm does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you ignore injustice or turn away from challenges. It means you choose how you will meet them. It means you will not let hatred drag you into hate or fear drag you into panic. It means you will act from strength instead of weakness, wisdom instead of impulse, vision instead of blindness. Calm allows you to fight the battles that matter with greater precision because your energy is not wasted on every distraction. There is a deep dignity in calm. The dignity of a person who refuses to be mastered by emotion. The dignity of a person who knows their value does not require constant defense. The dignity of a soul that trusts time, truth, and perseverance to reveal what noise tries to hide. Calm is not the absence of fire within you. It is the fire under control. It is a lion that roars only when necessary, a warrior that strikes only when it matters. Every person has a choice in the face of adversity. You can let the storm dictate your movement, or you can stand as the eye of the storm, untouched, unshaken, unmoved. Calm is the weapon that allows you to do so. It does not mean the storm disappears. It means you learn how to walk through it without losing yourself. And that is the kind of power that no one and nothing can take from you. Pain is often seen as the enemy, the unwelcome visitor that comes unannounced and overstays its welcome. We spend much of our lives trying to escape it, numb it, avoid it, or pretend it is not there. Yet the very presence of pain is a sign of life. It is the body reminding you that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of feeling. A world without pain might sound like paradise, but a life without pain would be empty, shallow, and without depth. It is pain that sharpens us, pain that teaches us, pain that awakens us to the fullness of our humanity. Think of your earliest wounds, the scraped knees of childhood, the broken hearts of youth, the disappointments of dreams that did not come true. At the time, each felt unbearable, a weight too heavy for you to carry. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing. And if you look closely, those same wounds shaped who you are today. Pain has a way of breaking us open only to reveal what lies beneath. It is in the moments when we hurt the most that we discover reserves of strength we never knew existed. To feel pain is to be reminded that you are alive. A hand that touches fire feels the burn because nerves are awake. A heart that loves deeply feels heartbreak because it was capable of love in the first place. Pain is not just proof of your existence, it is proof of your depth, proof that you risked something, that you dared to love, dared to try, dared to live. To never feel pain would be to never step beyond safety, to never risk, to never reach for more. And a life without risk, without vulnerability, is not a life fully lived. There is a sacredness in pain. It strips away illusions and forces you to see what truly matters. When you are hurting, the superficial loses its power. Status, appearances, possessions, they fade in importance. What remains is raw and real, the relationships that sustain you, the faith that steadies you, the inner voice that whispers, keep going. Pain removes the unnecessary layers and brings you face to face with your truest self. And though the process feels unbearable, it is through that process that you become more honest, more compassionate, more alive. Pain is also a great equalizer. It does not discriminate. It visits the rich and the poor, the strong and the weak, the old and the young. No one escapes it. But in that shared experience lies a profound connection. Pain reminds us of our humanity. It humbles us, reminding us that no matter our titles, no matter our achievements, we are all vulnerable to life's sharp edges. And in that vulnerability, we learn empathy. We learn to see one another not as competitors or strangers, but as fellow travelers who bleed, who cry, who hurt just as we do. When we embrace the truth that pain is proof of life, we begin to shift how we see it. Instead of running from it, we can learn from it. Instead of fearing it, we can face it. Instead of despising it, we can understand its role in shaping us. For every scar you carry, there is a story of survival. For every tear you have shed, there is evidence of courage. For every loss you have endured, there is proof that you loved deeply enough to feel its absence. The very things that ache within you are also the things that testify to your capacity to live fully. Think of the times you have grown the most. Rarely was it in the seasons of comfort. Rarely was it when everything was easy, predictable, or certain. It was in the heartbreak, in the disappointment, in the nights when sleep would not come and hope seemed far away. Those moments carved you, reshaped you, deepened you. The person you are today carries within them the fingerprints of every painful moment you survived. Without them, you would not be who you are. Without them, you would not carry the wisdom, the compassion, the resilience that now lives inside you. Pain also teaches gratitude. When you have walked through sickness, health tastes sweeter. When you have known loneliness, companionship feels sacred. When you have faced failure, success shines brighter. Pain sharpens your awareness of joy, because only in contrast do we truly see the fullness of life. Without the night, the stars are invisible. Without pain, the beauty of joy would lose its brilliance. Pain makes joy not just pleasant, but profound. But to accept pain as proof of life does not mean to glorify suffering or to seek it out. It means to acknowledge it when it arrives and to refuse to let it destroy you. It means to allow it to pass through you and transform you without letting it define you. Pain will knock at your door, but you do not have to build it a permanent home. You can acknowledge it, learn from it, and let it shape you into something stronger, wiser, deeper. There are those who, in the midst of pain, decide to close themselves off. They lock their hearts, build walls around their souls, and refuse to feel again. But in doing so, they rob themselves not only of pain, but also of joy, connection, and love. To feel pain is to be open, to be vulnerable, to be alive. The choice is never between pain and no pain. It is between pain and numbness. And numbness is not living, it is existing. To live fully, you must risk pain, and in that risk, you discover the richest parts of your humanity. Every time you rise from pain, you carry with you a new layer of strength. Every scar you bear is a mark of survival, proof that you faced what you thought would destroy you, and yet you endured. Pain writes resilience into your story. Pain etches courage into your character. Pain deepens the well of wisdom within you so that when others face their own storms, you can stand beside them as proof that survival is possible. So the next time pain comes, before you curse it, pause and remember. This pain means you are still alive. It means your heart still beats, your spirit still feels, your soul still reaches. It means you dared to step beyond safety. It means you risked something worth losing. It means you are not numb, you are alive, awake, aware. And being alive with all its joy and all its pain is still the greatest gift you could ever hold. There is a hidden artist at work in every life, one that often goes unrecognized until much later. This artist is struggle. Struggle chisels, carves, shapes, and refines the raw material of who you are. It takes the unformed stone of your being and through pressure, through force, through resistance, it sculpts strength. Strength does not appear by chance. It is not granted as a gift to the fortunate. It is born in the fires of difficulty, in the weight of burdens, in the friction of obstacles. Struggle is the silent hand that crafts resilience into the heart. Think of the strongest people you know, the ones whose presence commands respect, not because they speak loudly, but because they have endured much. Their strength did not come from ease. It did not come from a life where every door opened effortlessly or where every dream came true without delay. Their strength came from nights of uncertainty, from seasons of loss, from climbing mountains they never asked to climb. Struggle introduced them to parts of themselves they did not know existed. It pushed them beyond their limits and forced them to grow. The truth is, struggle has always been a teacher, even if it did not look like one in the moment. When you were in the middle of hardship, it may have felt like punishment, like injustice, like life was against you. But with time, when you look back, you realize that the very thing that almost broke you became the reason you became unbreakable. Struggle carved away fear and left behind courage. It chipped away doubt and revealed determination. It struck against the stone of your being again and again until something stronger emerged. Strength is not built in the absence of struggle. It is built because of it. Just as muscles grow only when pushed beyond comfort, your spirit grows only when life stretches you past what you thought you could endure. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without weight, there is no lifting. Without storms, there is no proof of stability. Struggle is the resistance that strengthens the soul. It is tempting to wish for a life free from struggle, to imagine a path where everything falls into place and nothing stands in the way. But such a life would leave you hollow, untested, unshaped. It would leave you like marble untouched by the sculptor, smooth perhaps, but without definition, without depth, without beauty. The marks of struggle are what make you distinct. The scars are what tell the story of your survival. The cracks and lines of hardship are what give texture to your humanity. Without them, you would not carry the wisdom or the resilience that now lives within you. Struggle teaches patience. It demands that you wait when you want to rush, that you endure when you want to quit, that you stay when every part of you wants to escape. In the waiting, in the enduring, you learn that strength is not just the ability to act, but the ability to resist the urge to give in. Strength is not only in lifting heavy burdens, but in carrying them day after day without letting them crush your spirit. Struggle also teaches humility. It reminds you that no matter how much you achieve, you are not invincible. It strips away arrogance and replaces it with compassion. When you have suffered, you look differently at the suffering of others. You do not dismiss their pain because you know what it feels like to hurt. You do not minimize their struggle because you remember your own. In this way, struggle sculpts not only strength but also empathy, creating a person who can stand tall and also reach low to lift another. Strength that comes without struggle is fragile, temporary, shallow. But strength that has been forged in difficulty is steady, enduring, real. When you have faced storms and survived, future storms lose their power over you. When you have walked through fire and come out the other side, flames no longer terrify you. Struggle gives you confidence that no matter what comes, you can withstand it because you already have. And that confidence is not arrogance, it is truth. written into the core of your being by the hand of hardship. Think of the butterfly in its cocoon. The struggle to emerge looks cruel, unnecessary, painful. And yet, without that struggle, the butterfly's wings would never grow strong enough to fly. If someone were to cut the cocoon and free it without effort, the butterfly would never soar. The struggle is not punishment, it is preparation, and so it is with you. The struggles you face are strengthening your wings, preparing you for flights you cannot yet imagine. Every great story has a moment of struggle. The hero does not become a hero without trials. The victory is meaningless without the battle. The triumph is shallow without the hardship that preceded it. Your story is no different. The moments of struggle are not detours from your path. They are the very path itself. They are the chapters that shape the ending, the pages that make the journey worth telling. So when you find yourself in the middle of struggle, remember, this is not wasted. This is not random. This is the sculptor at work. Every challenge, every obstacle, every burden is shaping you. You may not see the shape yet, you may not recognize the beauty in the breaking, but one day you will look back and see that you were being carved into someone stronger, wiser, deeper than you could have imagined. Struggle is not the end of you. It is the beginning of a new strength within you. It is the sculptor of your courage, the chisel of your resilience, the hand that shapes your greatness. And though the process is painful, the result is extraordinary. For out of the hardest stone emerges the most enduring sculpture. Out of the deepest struggle emerges the strongest soul. Power has always been misunderstood. People often imagine it as something instant, something loud, something that arrives in a flash of triumph or a sudden breakthrough. They picture power as the roar of victory, the applause of the crowd, the crown placed upon a head. But true power is quieter, slower, and far more enduring. True power is born not from haste, but from patience. It is the kind of power that cannot be shaken by time because it was forged within it. Patience is not weakness. Patience is strength under restraint. Patience is power held in trust until the right moment arrives. In a world obsessed with speed, patience feels like resistance. Everywhere you turn, there are voices urging you to rush, to get results today, to achieve success tomorrow, to fix problems instantly. But the deepest transformations of life cannot be rushed. You cannot plant a seed today and demand a forest tomorrow. You cannot demand the sunrise in the middle of the night. The greatest powers of life operate on their own timing, and to align with them, you must learn patience. Patience teaches you to trust the process. It is easy to believe that progress is absent when it is not visible. But just because you cannot see the roots does not mean they are not growing. Just because the seed is buried in darkness does not mean it is not alive. The most powerful changes often happen underground, unseen, unnoticed, until one day they break through with undeniable strength. Patience gives you the faith to endure the unseen seasons, to believe in growth even when your eyes cannot yet prove it. When impatience takes hold, it often leads to reckless choices. It drives you to grasp at shortcuts, to settle for less than you are capable of, to chase quick fixes that satisfy for a moment but rob you of lasting fulfillment. Impatience whispers lies, that if you do not rush, you will miss your chance, that if you do not act now, you will be left behind. But patience knows better. Patience reminds you that timing is as important as effort, that arriving too soon can be just as dangerous as arriving too late. The fruit picked before it is ripe is bitter. The iron struck before it is hot bends but does not shape. Power arrives in fullness only to those who wait for the right time. Patience also gives you mastery over yourself, To be patient is to refuse to be ruled by impulse. It is to train your emotions to serve you rather than enslave you. Anyone can react in haste. Anyone can lash out when frustrated. Anyone can run after the first opportunity that comes. But to wait, to hold steady, to remain calm while the world rushes around you, that is mastery. That is control. That is power. The one who can wait without breaking is far stronger than the one who must always move, always react, always grasp. Consider the ocean. Waves crash and foam on the surface, restless and impatient, always moving, always rushing. But deep beneath, the ocean is calm, steady, patient. Its true power lies not in the surface chaos, but in the depth beneath it. So it is with life. The impatient live on the surface, tossed by every wave. The patient live in depth, unmoved by the storms above. Patience anchors you to depth, and in depth there is unshakable power. Patience also reveals clarity. When you are in a hurry, your vision narrows. You see only what is in front of you, and you miss the bigger picture. But when you allow time to stretch, when you resist the urge to rush, you begin to see beyond the moment. You notice the patterns, the connections, the long arc of your journey. Decisions made in patience are wiser because they are not blinded by urgency. They are guided by perspective. And perspective is a form of power that impatience can never provide. Greatness has always belonged to the patient. The greatest works of art were not painted in a day. The greatest discoveries were not made in an instant. The greatest legacies were not built overnight. Behind every enduring achievement is a story of patience, of countless hours of unseen labor, of waiting when others gave up, of enduring when others quit. Patience is the companion of perseverance, and together they carry the weight of greatness. Patience does not mean inactivity. It does not mean sitting idly, doing nothing, hoping for change to arrive. Patience is active waiting. It is preparing, working, refining, growing, even when results are not immediate. It is the farmer tilling the soil in faith that the harvest will come. It is the student studying in faith that the knowledge will matter. It is the dreamer building quietly, knowing that one day the vision will become reality. Patience is not empty. It is full of faith, full of work, full of steady commitment. There will always be those who mock patience, who see it as weakness, who call it hesitation. They will boast of their speed, of how quickly they acted, of how much they gained in little time. But often their gains are shallow, their victories fleeting, their power temporary. For true power does not burn out. True power endures, and endurance is always born of patience. The river that wears down stone does not do so in haste. It does so in time. Patience is the river that carves mountains. Patience is the hand that turns obstacles into pathways. When you look back on your life, you will not remember the things that came quickly and easily. Those moments fade, their impact light as dust. You will remember the things that took time, the battles that required endurance, the dreams that demanded waiting. Those victories will taste sweeter because they were not handed to you. They were earned through patience. And in earning them, you discovered not only power, but the person you became while waiting. Patience is not just the path to power, it is power. It is the ability to hold your ground when the world around you demands that you move. It is the ability to trust in growth when your eyes see only barrenness. It is the ability to wait for the right moment, to align your effort with the rhythm of time itself. Power that comes in patience is unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable. And the one who learns to be patient learns to carry a strength the rushing world will never understand. There comes a time in every life when holding on feels easier than letting go. We cling to memories, to pain, to anger, to people who no longer walk beside us because letting go feels like surrender. It feels like giving up on something we once believed in so deeply. But rising above does not come from clinging. Rising comes from release. You cannot lift off the ground if your arms are full of burdens. You cannot soar to new heights if your heart is chained to the weight of yesterday. To rise above, you must learn to let go. Letting go is not weakness. It is not defeat. It is the ultimate act of strength. It takes courage to loosen your grip when everything inside you wants to hold tighter. It takes trust to walk forward without carrying the old wounds as proof of your suffering. But every chain you carry slows you, and every grudge you hold poisons you. The anger you feed does not hurt the one who hurt you, it hurts you. The bitterness you water does not drown your enemy, it drowns you. The longer you cling to what is gone, the more you rob yourself of what could be. Life was never designed to be lived backward. The days keep moving forward. The seasons keep changing. The earth keeps turning. Yet so many of us resist this rhythm by holding on to things we should have released long ago. We replay conversations. We revisit betrayals. We relive heartbreaks, as if reliving them could somehow rewrite them. But the truth remains the same. The past cannot be altered. It can only be accepted. And acceptance is the soil from which freedom grows. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean the wound never mattered. It does not erase the love that was lost, the trust that was broken, the dream that did not come true. Letting go means you choose not to let those things define you any longer. It means you take the lessons, but you leave the chains. It means you honor the story, but you stop letting it trap you in the same chapter. There is power in loosening your grip. The river cannot flow if the dam refuses to break. The tree cannot grow if the old leaves cling to every branch. The bird cannot soar if it refuses to leave the nest. Life moves forward through release. Everything in nature teaches us this rhythm, yet we resist it because we fear the unknown. We think letting go will leave us empty, but letting go does not create emptiness. It creates space, space for healing, space for new beginnings, space for joy you could not imagine while your hands were clenched around sorrow. Many people believe that rising above requires fighting harder, pushing stronger, holding on longer. But the greatest rising often comes not from more effort, but from surrender. It is the quiet release of what no longer serves you. It is the willingness to loosen your grip on resentment, on control, on the idea that things should have turned out differently. The moment you let go is the moment you rise, because the weight that held you down no longer belongs to you. Letting go is also an act of self-love. It is saying to yourself, I deserve peace more than I deserve to replay this pain. I deserve freedom more than I deserve to carry this grudge. I deserve joy more than I deserve to cling to sorrow. Forgiveness, whether of others or of yourself, is not about excusing the wrong. It is about refusing to let the wrong continue to hold power over you. It is about cutting the cord that ties you to suffering and choosing instead to breathe, to heal, to live. It is not easy. No one pretends it is. Letting go feels like stepping into an empty space with no guarantee of what will catch you. But that is the mystery of faith. It teaches you that sometimes you must release what you see in order to grasp what you cannot yet see. You cannot take hold of the future with hands that are still clutching the past. You cannot rise into your destiny while dragging the weight of what was. Think of the eagle rising high above the earth. It does not soar by carrying stones in its talons. It soars because it releases what it cannot carry. If you want to rise above your pain, your failures, your disappointments, you must decide which weights you will no longer carry. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that is holding me back? Whose voice, whose memory, whose betrayal still chains me to the ground? And then ask yourself the harder question, am I willing to let it go? Sometimes letting go means walking away from people who no longer honor you. Sometimes it means releasing dreams that no longer fit the person you are becoming. Sometimes it means forgiving yourself for mistakes that live rent-free in your memory. And sometimes it means simply closing the door on yesterday so you can walk into today with both hands open. Whatever form it takes, letting go is always the threshold to freedom. And freedom is where rising begins. You will never fly if your wings are tied down. You will never rise if your soul is chained to bitterness. But once you let go, you discover how light you can be. You discover how high you can climb. You discover that your story is not defined by what you lost, but by what you gained through release. The greatest act of power you will ever perform is not conquering others, not achieving more, not proving your worth. It is letting go of what no longer serves your soul. That release is the doorway to peace. That release is the path to healing. That release is the secret to rising above it all. Setbacks are the moments we rarely ask for but always remember. They arrive suddenly, interrupting plans, shattering expectations, and leaving us with the heavy silence of disappointment. A setback can feel like the end of the road, like proof that you were not good enough, not strong enough, not capable enough. And yet, hidden beneath the weight of every setback is a lesson, a whisper of truth waiting to be heard. Every setback is not the end, it is a teacher. And though it teaches in silence, its lessons are often the ones that shape us most deeply. Life has a way of using disappointment as a mirror. When things do not go as planned, you are forced to look at yourself differently. You are forced to face your limits, your blind spots, your vulnerabilities. In the moment, this feels cruel, but in truth, it is a gift, because only when you see yourself honestly can you begin to grow. Success rarely teaches humility, but setbacks do. Success rarely forces reflection, but setbacks demand it. Success rarely tests your resilience, but setbacks measure it. Think of the times you have stumbled. You set your heart on a goal, you gave everything you had, and still the door closed in your face. It hurt, it felt unfair, but what happened after? With time, you realized the setback had carved something new inside you. Perhaps it gave you patience where before you were restless. Perhaps it gave you creativity where before you relied only on familiar paths. Perhaps it gave you strength where before you leaned on comfort. The setback did not destroy you, it built you, but it built you quietly, in ways you did not notice until much later. Every setback carries a question within it. Will you stop here? Or will you keep going? That question reveals more about you than success ever could. Anyone can move forward when the path is clear, when the doors are open, when the applause is loud. But who are you when nothing works, when no one claps, when every step feels heavier than the last? That is where your true character is revealed. Setbacks test the depth of your commitment. They ask if your dream was just a wish or if it was a calling worth enduring for. There is also wisdom hidden in setbacks. Sometimes they arrive to redirect you, to show you that the path you chose was not the path you were meant to take. What feels like rejection in the moment may actually be protection. What feels like loss may actually be guidance. Think of the opportunities you once begged for but did not receive. At the time, you may have cried over them, but now, looking back, you see that not getting them was the best thing that could have happened. The silent teacher was at work, guiding you away from harm even as you resisted the lesson. Setbacks also teach resilience. Resilience is not built in comfort. It is built in the breaking. It is built in the nights when you wonder if you can go on, but you do. It is built in the mornings when the weight of yesterday still lingers, but you rise anyway. Every setback you survive adds another layer of resilience to your soul, another brick to the foundation of your strength. And with each setback, you grow less afraid of falling because you know you can rise again. Setbacks humble us, but they also humanize us. They remind us that we are not invincible, that we are still learning, that we are still becoming, and in that humility, we grow more compassionate. We look at others with softer eyes because we know what it feels like to hurt. We know what it feels like to try and fail, to believe and be disappointed. That shared humanity becomes a bridge between us and others, a reminder that no one's journey is free from struggle. Every setback is also a call to creativity. When one path closes, you are forced to find another. When one door locks, you must discover a window. Many of the greatest innovations, the boldest ideas, the most inspiring breakthroughs were born from setbacks. When people had no choice but to think differently, to try again, to build anew, something extraordinary emerged. The silent teacher of failure often sparks the fire of invention. But here's the truth. Setbacks never feel like teachers in the moment. They feel like punishments, like betrayals, like heavy weights you cannot carry. That is why it takes courage to look for the lesson. It takes faith to believe that the pain you are feeling today will one day become wisdom, that the disappointment you carry now will one day turn into strength. But if you stay with it, if you refuse to let the setback define you, you will discover that its silence was filled with lessons you needed all along. Every scar tells a story, and most stories worth telling are born not of ease, but of endurance. Setbacks give your story depth. They give it authenticity. They turn you into someone who not only speaks of resilience, but embodies it. They turn you into someone who can look another hurting soul in the eye and say, I know what it feels like, and I know you can survive it. That kind of authority cannot be faked. It can only be learned in the classroom of setbacks. When you rise from a setback, you rise differently. You rise with a wisdom that success alone could never have given you. You rise with a strength that is not borrowed, but owned. You rise with a perspective that sees not just the victory, but the value of the struggle. And each time you rise, you become more unshakable, more unmovable, more unstoppable. So when life pushes you back, when doors close, when plans fall apart, when your heart aches with disappointment, remember this: you are in the presence of a teacher. The lesson may not be clear today, but it will be written into your soul tomorrow. Every setback is shaping you. Every setback is sculpting you. Every setback is silently teaching you how to rise, how to endure, how to become everything you were meant to be. When you rise, it is never only about you. The world often tries to convince us that success is a solitary achievement, a personal crown placed on the head of one who has endured. But the truth is deeper, richer, and far more powerful. Your rise is not just for you. It is for every person who watches silently, every person who doubts themselves, every person who needs proof that it is possible to stand again after being broken. When you rise, you become a living testimony, and that testimony becomes a light that others cannot ignore. Think of the moments in your own life when you were weary, when you were close to giving up. What kept you going? Often it was the example of someone else. You saw someone who had endured loss, who had stumbled, who had suffered, yet found a way to rise. Their strength spoke to you more than their words ever could. And in that moment you realized, if they can do it, maybe I can too. This is the sacred truth of rising. It multiplies beyond you. It ripples outward, touching lives you may never even meet. We often underestimate how much our lives are connected. We live as though our choices affect only us, as though our struggles and victories belong to us alone. But nothing could be further from the truth. A child watches a parent. A student watches a teacher. A friend watches a friend. A stranger watches someone they admire from afar. In each case, when one person rises, it plants the possibility of rising in the mind of another. Your rise becomes a permission slip for others to dream bigger, to endure longer, to hold on when the weight feels unbearable. There is a responsibility that comes with rising, the responsibility to carry your story with authenticity, to share not just the victories but also the scars. Too often we hide the struggle and only present the shine, but the shine is meaningless without the story of the storm. When people see only the polished version of success, they may admire it, but they do not connect with it. What they connect with is the truth, that you stumbled, that you cried, that you doubted, that you almost quit. And yet, here you are, standing. That is what inspires. That is what heals. That is what gives others permission to rise as well. Your rise also breaks chains. Generations carry the weight of silence, of pain, of patterns passed down like invisible inheritance. When you rise, you break those patterns. You tell a new story not only for yourself, but for those who come after you. A child who sees their parent rise learns that resilience is in their blood. A family that has known nothing but defeat for decades suddenly sees a spark of hope. You become the one who says, it doesn't end here. This is not where the story stops. Your rise is not just for you, it is for everyone who shares your name, your lineage, your legacy. But even beyond family, your rise has power in the larger world. Humanity itself is built on the courage of those who refuse to stay down. Every breakthrough we celebrate was born from someone's refusal to remain defeated. Every movement for justice, every discovery, every invention, every song that healed hearts, all of them were born because someone chose to rise. And when they rose, they did not rise alone. Their courage carried others upward with them. That same responsibility now rests on your shoulders. When you rise, you open doors. You become proof that someone else's dream is worth fighting for. And here is the beauty. You do not need to be famous to matter. You do not need a stage, a spotlight, or a headline. You matter in the quiet moments when someone you love is watching you. You matter when a stranger sees you rise with grace and decides not to give up that day. You matter when your story spreads further than you could imagine, reaching lives you will never meet. You do not rise for applause, you rise for impact. And impact often happens in the shadows where you cannot see it. Rising above is not just about strength, it is about generosity. It is about being willing to live as an example, to let your journey become a map for others. When you rise, you light a torch, and that torch can guide others out of darkness. Without even knowing it, your endurance can become someone else's rescue. And sometimes that is the only reason you need to keep moving forward, not for yourself, but for the one who is silently waiting for proof that hope is still alive. Your rise teaches that healing is possible. Your rise shows that forgiveness is possible. Your rise proves that resilience is not a myth, that transformation is not a dream, that strength can emerge from weakness. Every scar you carry becomes a piece of someone else's medicine. Every tear you shed becomes a drop of water for someone else's dry soul. Your rise is not about selfish triumph, it is about collective healing. And so, when the weight feels unbearable, when you wonder if it is worth it, when you ask yourself why you should keep fighting, remember this: you are not fighting only for you. You are fighting for the ones who cannot yet see the light. You are fighting for the child who will one day hear your story and decide not to quit. You are fighting for the family that will carry your courage forward as their own inheritance. You are fighting for a world that desperately needs proof that rising is possible. Do not underestimate the quiet ways your rise can echo. The stranger you smiled at, the friend you encouraged, the child who saw you get up again and again. These are the seeds you plant by refusing to stay down. And one day those seeds will bloom in ways you may never witness. That is the power of a rise that is bigger than yourself. So rise. Rise with courage. Rise with honesty, rise with faith. Rise not just for your own story, but for the countless stories that will be rewritten because you chose to keep standing. Remember always, your rise is not just for you. It is the gift you give to the world. So stay calm when the storm rages. Embrace the pain when it presses against your chest. And above all, rise. Rise with dignity, rise with courage, rise with love, because the world is waiting to see not how you fell, but how you stood again. And when you rise, you prove that nothing, no wound, no loss, no fear, can keep a soul that is determined to live from reaching the heights of its own greatness.